This is your moment, not because the calendar changed, not because the world suddenly became easier, but because you are still here, still breathing, still standing, and if you're still standing, that means you still have work to do. The past year tried to break you. It tested your patience, your faith, your discipline. It showed you who stayed, who left, and who you really are when nobody is watching. Some days you won, some days you barely survived. But understand this clearly: survival is not failure. Survival is proof that there is something powerful inside you that refuses to quit. Rebuilding yourself starts with honesty. You can't fix what you keep lying about. You know where you got lazy, you know where you settled, you know which habits pulled you backward and which fears kept you quiet when you should have spoken up. Stop pretending it didn't happen, own it. Responsibility is not a punishment, it's a privilege. Because the moment you take responsibility, you take back control. No more blaming people, circumstances, or bad luck. The past is done, the lesson remains. And lessons are meant to be used, not cried over. You don't rebuild by wishing, you rebuild by working when motivation disappears. Discipline is the bridge between who you were and who you're trying to become. There will be mornings you don't feel like getting up, nights when quitting feels easier than continuing. That's the moment that defines you. Anyone can work when they feel inspired. Champions work when they're tired, confused, and doubting themselves. Do the small things right, show up on time, keep your word, finish what you start. Those small actions stack up, and one day you look in the mirror and realize you're no longer the same person. Let go of what you can't carry into this new season. Old grudges, old regrets, old versions of yourself that no longer fit. Forgive, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Peace is fuel, and you need fuel for this journey. Protect your energy. Not everyone deserves access to your mind, your plans, your future. Some people are only meant to witness your growth from a distance. That's not arrogance, that's wisdom. You are not rebuilding to impress people. You are rebuilding to respect yourself, to walk with confidence, to speak with purpose, to live with intention. The road won't be smooth, there will be setbacks, there will be moments when you question everything. But remember these: every strong structure is built after demolition. What fell apart was weak. What you build now will be solid because it's built with experience, pain, and truth. This new year doesn't owe you anything, but you owe yourself everything. Show up, do the work, stay consistent. And when doubt whispers that you're not enough, remind yourself that you are becoming, and becoming takes time. Survival is not something to minimize or dismiss, because surviving is evidence that something unbreakable lives inside you. When everything around you felt uncertain, when plans collapsed and people walked away, when motivation dried up and hope felt distant, you still woke up and kept going. That alone speaks louder than any achievement. The world celebrates wins, trophies, and loud success, but it rarely respects endurance. Endurance is quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It just keeps breathing when quitting feels reasonable. If you made it through the days that tried to crush you, then you carry a strength that cannot be taught, borrowed, or faked. There were moments when you didn't feel strong at all. You felt tired, frustrated, maybe even defeated. But strength is not the absence of weakness. Strength is moving forward while carrying it. You showed up when your mind was heavy and your heart felt uncertain. You handled responsibilities even when you felt empty. That's not weakness. That's resilience, and resilience is built in the dark, not on the stage. Nobody applauded you for staying patient. Nobody gave you credit for holding yourself together. But you did it anyway, and that matters. Survival means you adapted, you learned how to bend without breaking, you learned which battles were worth fighting and which ones required silence, you learned how to stand alone when support disappeared. These lessons didn't come wrapped in comfort, they came through pressure. Pressure reveals what's real, anything fake collapses under it. If you're still here, it means what's inside you is real, real enough to withstand loss, delay, disappointment, and doubt. There is a misconception that survival means you didn't grow, that if you didn't dominate the year, you somehow failed. That mindset is dangerous. Sometimes the goal is not to conquer, but to endure. Sometimes the victory is not progress, but persistence. There are seasons where your only job is to hold on, to stay mentally alive, to protect your spirit from breaking. You didn't fall apart when life gave you every reason to. That is growth, even if it doesn't look glamorous. Survival also proves that your story is not finished. You were not removed from the game. You were not eliminated. You're still in position to rebuild, to improve, to rise again with more clarity than before. If life wanted you out, you wouldn't be here. The fact that you're still breathing means there is unfinished work, untapped potential, and another version of you waiting to be built. Survival keeps the door open. It gives you another chance to choose differently, to move smarter, to live with intention. Every scar you carry is evidence of battles you didn't lose. Scars are not signs of damage, they are proof of healing. Something tried to destroy you and it failed. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but neither did you. You learned how to carry it without letting it define you. That kind of strength cannot be taken away because it was earned. And anything earned through struggle becomes part of your foundation. When you recognize survival as strength, your perspective changes. You stop seeing yourself as behind. You stop comparing your journey to people who haven't walked your path. You realize that the weight you carried shaped you. It sharpened your awareness. It made you more selective, more focused, more grounded. You're no longer chasing validation. You're chasing stability, growth, and purpose. That maturity comes from surviving things that forced you to look inward. Survival also builds humility. It teaches you that life can shift quickly, that control is limited, and that gratitude matters. You appreciate peace more because you've known chaos. You value progress because you've experienced stagnation. You respect consistency because you've lived through uncertainty. These understandings don't come from comfort. They come from surviving moments that tested your patience and your faith. You are standing on proof, not hope. Proof that you can endure discomfort. Proof that you can handle pressure. Proof that you don't quit easily, even when you feel alone. That knowledge changes how you move forward. You stop questioning whether you're capable. You start asking how far you're willing to go. Because once you've survived your lowest moments, fear loses its grip, and the future no longer looks impossible. Honesty is the starting point of every real transformation, because nothing meaningful can be built on denial. It takes courage to look at yourself without excuses, to admit where you fell short, where you compromised, where you chose comfort over growth. Most people avoid that mirror because it's uncomfortable. They'd rather blame time, people, luck, or circumstances than face their own decisions. But growth demands truth. Until you tell yourself the truth, change remains a fantasy. Being honest with yourself doesn't mean being cruel. It means being clear. It means recognizing patterns instead of pretending mistakes were isolated incidents. You know the habits that slowed you down. You know the distractions that stole your focus. You know the moments when you could have tried harder but didn't. That awareness is powerful, not because it brings guilt, but because it brings direction. When you stop lying to yourself, you finally know what needs to be fixed. Self-accountability is where excuses lose their power. The moment you say, "This is on me," you take your life back. Responsibility is not about shame, it's about ownership. If your choices contributed to your current position, then your choices can also change it. That realization should energize you, not defeat you, because it means you are not trapped, you are not helpless. You are capable of rewriting the direction of your life by changing how you act today. Accountability forces you to stop waiting for permission. You don't need someone to rescue you, validate you, or push you. You become your own standard. You measure yourself by effort, discipline, and integrity rather than outcomes alone. When things don't work, you don't collapse or complain. You analyze, you adjust, you move forward wiser than before. That mindset separates growth from stagnation. There is a difference between knowing and owning. Many people know what they should do, but few truly own the responsibility of doing it. Ownership means you don't hide behind intentions. You judge yourself by action. You stop saying you'll change someday and start changing today. Even when progress is slow, accountability keeps you consistent. It reminds you that every small choice is a vote for the person you are becoming. Honesty also means admitting what you can't control. Not everything that happened was your fault, but how you respond is always your responsibility. Blaming the past keeps you stuck in it. Learning from it sets you free. When you accept that some things were unfair, painful, or unexpected, and still choose to move forward, you reclaim your strength. You stop arguing with reality and start building within it. Self-accountability builds trust with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. Every time you break one, it weakens. This is why discipline matters more than motivation. Motivation comes and goes, but accountability stays. It reminds you of who you said you wanted to be, especially on days when you don't feel like showing up. Over time, this creates a solid inner foundation that doesn't depend on external approval. Being honest also requires letting go of the image you've been protecting. The need to look successful, strong, or unbothered can keep you stuck. Real strength is admitting when something isn't working. Real confidence is adjusting without ego. When you stop performing and start improving, progress becomes inevitable. You no longer waste energy pretending, you invest it in becoming better. Accountability sharpens your decision making. You think twice before repeating the same mistakes because you know you'll have to answer for them. You become more intentional with your time, your energy, and your relationships. You stop reacting emotionally and start responding strategically. That shift changes everything. Life stops feeling chaotic and starts feeling directed. Honesty and self-accountability are not one-time acts. They are daily practices. Every day you choose whether to face the truth or avoid it. And every day you choose truth, you move closer to the life you say you want. Taking responsibility is the moment your life stops being controlled by circumstances and starts being shaped by your decisions. As long as you believe everything is happening to you, you remain powerless. But the second you accept that your choices play a role in where you stand, you regain authority over your future. Responsibility is not about blaming yourself for everything that went wrong. It's about recognizing where your influence begins. That recognition changes how you see yourself. You stop feeling like a victim of life and start acting like a participant in it. When you take responsibility, excuses lose their grip. Excuses feel comforting because they protect your ego, but they quietly steal your potential. Every excuse you accept becomes a barrier between who you are and who you could be. Responsibility removes those barriers. It forces you to confront uncomfortable truths, but it also hands you the tools to change. You realize that while you may not control every event, you always control your response, your effort, and your consistency. There is power in saying, "This is on me," not because it's easy, but because it's honest. That statement puts you back in the driver's seat. If your habits led you here, new habits can take you somewhere else. If your mindset limited you before, a stronger mindset can expand your possibilities now. Responsibility doesn't shrink you, it expands you. It reminds you that your actions matter more than your intentions. Many people confuse responsibility with self-criticism. They think owning their mistakes means tearing themselves down. In reality, responsibility is an act of respect. You respect yourself enough to stop lying, enough to stop avoiding the work, enough to demand better from yourself. You don't dwell on what went wrong, you study it. You don't punish yourself for failure, you learn from it. That approach turns setbacks into instruction rather than obstacles. Responsibility also brings clarity. When you stop blaming people, timing, or luck, your focus sharpens. Your energy stops leaking into frustration and starts flowing into improvement. You begin to ask better questions. What can I do differently? Where do I need to be more disciplined? What am I avoiding that needs to be addressed? These questions move you forward. They keep you engaged in your own growth instead of distracted by resentment. Taking responsibility means accepting that progress is your job. No one is coming to save you. No one is obligated to push you, remind you, or motivate you. That truth can feel heavy at first, but it's also freeing. Because if no one else is responsible, then no one else has the power to stop you either. Your growth becomes personal. Your standards become internal. You move based on commitment, not external pressure. Responsibility strengthens your confidence in a real way. Not the loud, performative kind, but the quiet kind that comes from keeping promises to yourself. Every time you choose discipline over excuses, you build trust with yourself. Every time you follow through, your self-belief deepens. Confidence stops being something you wait to feel and becomes something you earn through action. When responsibility becomes part of who you are, you stop running from challenges, you face them directly. You don't waste time explaining why something is hard, you focus on what's required. You understand that discomfort is part of growth, not a sign that something is wrong. That mindset allows you to stay calm under pressure and steady during uncertainty. Responsibility also changes how you interact with others. You stop expecting people to meet needs you haven't communicated or earned. You become clearer in your boundaries and expectations. You take ownership of your reactions instead of letting emotions control your behavior. This maturity creates stronger relationships and reduces unnecessary conflict, because you're no longer outsourcing your emotional stability. As you continue taking responsibility, you notice a shift in how you see the future. It no longer feels random or intimidating. It feels responsive. You understand that every day offers choices, and those choices compound. Small decisions, repeated consistently, start shaping outcomes. You don't need to overhaul your entire life at once. You just need to take responsibility for the next right action, then the next, then the next. Responsibility doesn't guarantee immediate success, but it guarantees growth. It keeps you aligned with your values instead of your moods. It gives you something solid to stand on when motivation fades. Over time, you realize that the power you were searching for outside has always existed within your willingness to own your life and act accordingly. Motivation is unreliable. It shows up when things feel good and disappears the moment discomfort enters the room. If you build your life on motivation, your progress will always be fragile. Discipline, on the other hand, stays when excitement fades. Discipline doesn't care about your mood, your energy level, or your doubts. It operates on commitment. It shows up because it's required, not because it feels good. That is why discipline matters more than motivation when it comes to rebuilding yourself. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is intentional. Motivation says, I'll start when I feel ready. Discipline says, I'll start because it's time. There will be days when you feel inspired and focused, and those days are easy. But most days are ordinary, some days are heavy, some days are frustrating. Discipline is what carries you through those days. It keeps you moving when your mind starts negotiating with comfort and your body wants to slow down. Discipline is built through repetition, not willpower. You don't wake up disciplined. You become disciplined by doing what needs to be done again and again. Every time you choose action over excuses, discipline grows stronger. Every time you give in to comfort, it weakens. This is why small daily actions matter. You don't need extreme effort. You need consistent effort. Consistency compounds quietly, but its results are undeniable. Many people wait to feel confident before they act. Discipline flips that order. You act first, and confidence follows. You don't wait to feel like working. You work, and the feeling catches up later. This approach removes emotion from the process. It turns progress into a system rather than a struggle. When something becomes routine, it no longer requires debate. You just do it. Discipline also protects you from self-sabotage. When emotions run high, discipline keeps you grounded. When boredom sets in, discipline keeps you focused. When success begins to arrive, discipline keeps you humble and consistent. It creates structure, and structure creates stability. Without discipline, even talent becomes wasted potential. Discipline is not about punishment or restriction. It's about alignment. It's about choosing what you want most over what you want now. Every disciplined choice is a vote for your future self. Skipping the workout, avoiding the difficult conversation, delaying the important task may feel good in the moment, but it costs you later. Discipline asks you to pay the price now so you don't have to pay a heavier one later. There will be times when discipline feels lonely. When others are relaxing, celebrating, or taking shortcuts, you'll be doing the work in silence. That silence is where growth happens. That's where standards are built. You start realizing that discipline is a form of self-respect. It's you saying, my goals matter enough for me to show up even when nobody is watching. Discipline also brings clarity to your identity. You stop asking who you want to be and start living as that person. Your actions become evidence of your values. You don't have to talk about change, you demonstrate it. Over time, discipline reshapes how you see yourself. You no longer doubt your ability to follow through, because you've proven it through repeated action. Motivation fades quickly when results are slow. Discipline stays because it's not tied to outcomes. You do the work regardless of immediate feedback. You trust the process even when progress feels invisible. That trust is built through discipline. You understand that meaningful change takes time, and you're willing to stay consistent long enough for results to catch up. Discipline doesn't eliminate struggle, but it makes struggle productive. Instead of chaos, you have direction. Instead of randomness, you have routine. Instead of waiting for the perfect moment, you create momentum through action. Over time, what once felt hard becomes normal, and what once felt impossible becomes manageable. When discipline becomes your foundation, motivation becomes a bonus, not a requirement. You don't depend on feelings to move forward. You depend on commitment, and that commitment becomes the force that carries you through rebuilding, growth, and long-term change. Big change is often imagined as a dramatic moment, a single decision that instantly transforms everything. In reality, lasting transformation is built quietly through small, consistent actions repeated over time. The daily choices you make, especially the ones that seem insignificant, shape the direction of your life. Improvement doesn't arrive all at once. It accumulates. Every small step you take becomes part of a larger pattern, and that pattern eventually defines who you are. Small actions matter because they are manageable. Anyone can promise a complete life overhaul, but very few can sustain it. Small actions remove the pressure of perfection. They make progress feel possible on days when energy is low and motivation is absent. Showing up for 10 minutes, making one better choice, completing one task you've been avoiding may not feel impressive, but it builds momentum. Momentum is powerful because it turns effort into habit. Consistency is what gives small actions their strength. A single workout won't change your body, just like one focused day won't change your career. But repeated effort creates momentum, and momentum creates identity. You start seeing yourself as someone who shows up, someone who finishes, someone who doesn't quit easily. That shift in identity is more powerful than any short-term result because it influences every future decision you make. Most people underestimate the cost of inconsistency. Skipping small actions doesn't feel dangerous in the moment. Missing one day seems harmless, but inconsistency compounds just like consistency does. Small neglect turns into lost discipline. Lost discipline turns into doubt. Doubt slowly erodes belief. That's why protecting consistency matters more than intensity. Intensity burns out quickly. Consistency endures. Small actions also reduce fear. Large goals can feel overwhelming, causing procrastination and avoidance. Breaking them down into small, repeatable steps makes them approachable. You stop being intimidated by the size of the journey and focus on the next step in front of you. This keeps you present and engaged instead of anxious about the future. Consistency builds trust with yourself. Every time you do what you said you would do, even in small ways, your self-respect grows. You begin to believe in your ability to follow through. That belief becomes a quiet confidence that doesn't need validation. You stop overpromising and start delivering. Over time, that reliability becomes part of your character. Small actions done daily create structure. Structure removes chaos and reduces decision fatigue. When certain behaviors become automatic, they no longer require mental effort. You don't debate whether to do them. You just do them. This frees up energy for creativity, problem solving, and growth. Life feels less overwhelming when your foundation is built on simple, consistent routines. Progress built on small actions is sustainable. It doesn't rely on bursts of motivation or extreme sacrifice. It adapts to life's challenges instead of collapsing under them. Even when things get difficult, small actions remain possible. You may not always have the strength for big moves, but you almost always have the ability to take a small step forward. Over time, small, consistent actions create visible change. What once felt slow suddenly feels significant when you look back. The progress you didn't notice day to day becomes obvious in hindsight. You realize that the version of you who struggled to start is no longer the same person. Growth didn't happen overnight, but it happened steadily. Small actions also create resilience. When setbacks occur, you don't quit completely. You adjust and continue. You understand that missing a day doesn't erase months of effort. This mindset prevents all or nothing thinking. You stop seeing progress as fragile and start seeing it as durable. Lasting transformation is not built through perfection. It's built through persistence. Small, consistent actions, done with intention, eventually reshape your habits, your mindset, and your identity. They don't demand immediate results. They demand patience and commitment. And over time, they quietly turn effort into lasting change. Holding on to the past can quietly sabotage your future. Old mistakes, old pain, old disappointments become weight when you carry them longer than necessary. Growth requires space, and when your hands are full of yesterday, there is no room for tomorrow. Releasing the past is not about pretending it didn't happen. It's about refusing to let it control who you become next. Many people stay stuck not because they lack potential, but because they replay what went wrong over and over again. Regret turns into identity. Pain becomes a story they tell themselves daily. But what happened before does not define what is possible now. The past is a reference, not a residence. It can teach you, but it cannot be where you live. When you learn the lesson and refuse to move on, the lesson turns into a prison. Letting go begins with acceptance. Acceptance does not mean approval. It means acknowledging reality without fighting it. Some things ended without closure. Some people left without explanation. Some efforts failed despite your best intentions. Fighting these truths only drains your energy. Acceptance frees that energy so it can be used to build instead of resist. Releasing the past also requires forgiveness, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. Carrying resentment keeps you emotionally tied to moments that already stole enough from you. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is a strategic decision to stop bleeding from wounds that no longer need to be reopened. When you forgive, you are not excusing behavior. You are choosing freedom over bitterness. There is also a version of yourself that must be released. The one who made decisions based on fear. The one who settled for less because it felt safe. The one who didn't know what you know now. That version served a purpose. It helped you survive, but it is not meant to lead your future. Growth demands that you outgrow old identities. Holding on to who you were will block who you are becoming. The past often creates emotional habits. You react based on old experiences instead of present reality. You expect disappointment because you've known it before. You hesitate because you were hurt once. These reactions feel protective, but they limit you. Releasing the past means retraining your responses. It means choosing awareness over autopilot. You stop assuming the future will repeat the past and start allowing new outcomes. Letting go is uncomfortable because it removes familiarity. Even pain can feel familiar, and familiarity feels safe. But comfort is not the same as growth. Growth requires uncertainty. It requires trusting yourself enough to move forward without guarantees. When you release the past, you step into responsibility for what comes next. That responsibility can feel heavy, but it is also empowering. Releasing the past doesn't happen all at once. It happens in moments. Each time you choose not to replay an old memory, each time you stop telling yourself a limiting story, each time you respond differently than you would have before, these moments add up. Over time, the emotional grip of the past loosens, and your focus shifts naturally toward what you are building. When you let go, your energy changes. You become lighter, more present, more intentional. You stop dragging old disappointment into new opportunities. You start giving yourself permission to hope again. Hope doesn't mean ignoring reality. It means believing that reality can change with effort, awareness, and consistency. Releasing the past also sharpens your vision. You begin to see opportunities that were invisible when you were stuck in regret. You recognize patterns you need to break and behaviors you need to strengthen. You become more selective with your time, your relationships, and your commitments. Clarity grows when emotional noise fades. Letting go does not erase what you've been through, it integrates it. The experiences remain part of your story, but they no longer dictate the direction. You carry the wisdom without carrying the weight. And when you finally release what no longer serves you, growth stops being a struggle and starts becoming a choice you make daily. Your energy is one of your most valuable resources. Yet it is also one of the most abused. You give it away to people, situations, and thoughts that drain you, often without realizing the cost. Protecting your energy is not selfish, it is necessary. If your energy is scattered, your focus weakens. If your focus weakens, your progress slows. Everything you are trying to build depends on how well you manage where your energy goes. Not everyone deserves access to you. Some people only know how to take, criticize, or distract. They thrive on your attention but contribute nothing to your growth. Being around them may feel familiar, but familiarity does not equal alignment. Protecting your energy means recognizing who leaves you inspired and who leaves you exhausted. It means choosing environments that support your goals instead of constantly testing your patience. Energy is affected by what you allow into your mind. Negative conversations, constant comparison, and endless consumption of content can quietly drain you. You may not feel it immediately, but over time your motivation fades and your clarity blurs. Guarding your focus means being intentional about what you listen to, what you watch, and what you dwell on mentally. Your mind becomes shaped by what you repeatedly expose it to. Boundaries are a form of self-respect. Saying no is not rejection, it is direction. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with your purpose, you say no to something that does. Protecting your energy requires the courage to disappoint people temporarily instead of disappointing yourself permanently. You don't owe everyone your time, your attention, or your explanation. Focus is fragile in a world designed to distract you. Notifications, opinions, and demands pull you in multiple directions at once. Without protection, your attention becomes fragmented. When your attention is fragmented, deep work becomes impossible. Progress requires concentration. Concentration requires protection. This is why simplifying your life is powerful. Fewer distractions create more depth. Protecting your energy also means managing your emotions. Not every comment deserves a response. Not every situation requires your reaction. Emotional restraint is a form of strength. When you react to everything, you give control to external triggers. When you choose when to respond, you retain control. This discipline keeps your energy from being wasted on things that don't move you forward. Rest is part of protection. Constant effort without recovery leads to burnout, not success. Rest is not quitting. It is maintenance. When you allow yourself to recover, your mind becomes sharper and your decisions improve. Protecting your energy means respecting your limits instead of constantly pushing past them in the name of productivity. Focus also requires clarity of priorities. When everything feels important, nothing truly is. You must decide what matters most and align your energy accordingly. This clarity eliminates guilt. You stop feeling torn between obligations because you have chosen your direction. Protecting your energy becomes easier when your values are clear. You will encounter resistance when you start protecting your energy. People may misunderstand your boundaries. They may label you distant or changed. Growth often looks like distance to those who benefited from your lack of boundaries. You must be willing to accept that discomfort. Peace is more valuable than approval. Protecting your energy allows you to move with intention instead of reaction. You become proactive rather than reactive. Your days feel purposeful instead of chaotic. You begin to notice how much more you can accomplish when your focus is undivided. This clarity strengthens your confidence because your actions start aligning with your goals. When your energy is protected, your vision becomes sharper. You stop wasting effort on things that don't matter. You invest more deeply in what does. Over time, this focus compounds into progress that feels steady and sustainable. Protecting your energy is not about isolation. It's about alignment. It's about choosing what deserves your best and letting go of what doesn't. Protecting your energy is not about shutting the world out. It's about choosing where you show up fully and where you don't. You only have so much mental, emotional, and physical strength each day, and how you spend it determines the direction of your life. When your energy is constantly drained, even simple tasks feel heavy. When it's protected, even difficult challenges feel manageable. Focus and energy move together. Where one goes, the other follows. Many people lose energy without realizing it. They give attention to unnecessary drama, opinions that don't matter, and conversations that lead nowhere. They replay old arguments in their head, worry about outcomes they can't control, and seek validation from people who don't understand their vision. All of this consumes energy that could be used to build, improve, and grow. Protecting your energy starts with awareness. You notice what leaves you mentally tired and emotionally unsettled, and you stop pretending it's harmless. Not everyone needs to understand your journey. Some people are comfortable with the version of you that stayed accessible, available, and overextended. When you begin to protect your energy, your priorities change, and that can make others uncomfortable. That discomfort is not your responsibility. Growth often requires distance, not because you think you're better, but because you're becoming more intentional. You learn that access to you is earned through respect, not history. Focus is a discipline. It doesn't happen by accident. In a world full of distractions, protecting your focus requires deliberate choices. You decide when to be available and when to be unavailable. You choose depth over constant stimulation. You stop multitasking and start committing your attention to one thing at a time. This kind of focus feels uncomfortable at first because it removes escape routes, but it's where real progress happens. Your emotional energy needs protection just as much as your time. Not every problem needs your involvement. Not every opinion deserves your response. When you react to everything, you surrender control. When you pause, you preserve it. Emotional maturity is knowing when to engage and when to let things pass without attachment. This restraint keeps your inner state stable, even when the external world feels chaotic. Protecting your energy also means paying attention to your inner dialogue. The way you speak to yourself can either drain or strengthen you. Constant self-criticism, comparison, and doubt quietly consume energy. Replacing them with clarity, patience, and realistic expectations creates mental space. You don't need constant positivity, you need honesty without cruelty. Rest is often misunderstood as weakness, but it's a strategic decision. Without rest, focus fades and discipline breaks down. Protecting your energy means allowing yourself to recover without guilt. Recovery restores perspective, it sharpens judgment, it keeps you consistent instead of burned out. Sustainable growth depends on balance, not constant pressure. As you protect your energy, your standards rise naturally. You become more selective with commitments, conversations, and environments. You stop saying yes out of habit and start saying yes with intention. This selectiveness is not avoidance, it's alignment. Your time and energy begin to reflect what truly matters to you. When your energy is protected, your focus becomes powerful. You move with purpose instead of reacting to everything around you. You feel less rushed and more grounded. Progress feels steady rather than forced. You stop feeling pulled in multiple directions and start moving forward in one clear direction. Over time, protecting your energy changes how you experience life. You feel calmer, more present, and more capable. You stop living in constant defense mode and start operating from clarity. Focus becomes easier because your energy is no longer scattered. And when your energy is aligned with your goals, rebuilding yourself becomes not just possible, but inevitable. Rebuilding yourself is not a performance. It is not something you do to collect applause, approval, or attention. The moment your growth depends on how others see you, it becomes fragile. True rebuilding begins when you decide that your standards matter more than opinions and your self-respect matters more than validation. When you stop trying to prove yourself to the world, you finally start building something real. Validation is addictive, praise feels good, recognition feels reassuring, but relying on it puts your confidence in someone else's hands. One compliment can lift you, and one criticism can break you. That is not strength, that is dependence. Self-respect is different, it is quiet, it doesn't need to be announced. It's built in private decisions, in moments when no one is watching and no one is clapping. When you rebuild for self-respect, your focus shifts. You stop asking, does this make me look good, and start asking, does this make me better? You choose actions that align with your values instead of actions that attract attention. You don't need to explain yourself to everyone. You don't need to justify your process. You know why you're doing the work, and that reason is enough. Seeking validation often leads to compromise. You bend your boundaries to be liked. You stay silent to be accepted. You chase goals that look impressive instead of ones that feel meaningful. Over time, this creates internal conflict. You may look successful on the outside, but you feel disconnected on the inside. Rebuilding for self-respect ends that conflict. Your actions and your identity start to align. Self-respect grows when you keep promises to yourself. When you say you'll show up and you do. When you say you'll change and you follow through. These moments don't get applause, but they build trust within you. That trust becomes confidence, not loud confidence, but grounded confidence, the kind that doesn't shake when opinions change. When validation is your goal, comparison becomes inevitable. You constantly measure yourself against others. Their success makes you doubt yours. Their progress makes you feel behind. This comparison steals joy and distorts perspective. Rebuilding for self-respect frees you from that cycle. You understand that your journey is specific to you. You move at your own pace without rushing to keep up or slowing down to fit in. Self-respect also changes how you handle failure. When you fail for validation, failure feels humiliating. It feels public and personal. When you fail for growth, failure becomes information. You don't hide from it, you learn from it, you adjust and continue. Your worth is no longer tied to outcomes, it's tied to effort, integrity, and intention. There will be moments when rebuilding for self-respect feels lonely, when people don't understand why you're changing, when they question your choices or lose interest because you're no longer performing for them. That loneliness is temporary. What replaces it is peace. Peace that comes from knowing you are living honestly, not impressively. Rebuilding yourself for self-respect means setting standards even when it costs you comfort. You choose discipline over excuses. You choose long-term growth over short-term approval. You choose truth over image. These choices are not easy, but they are stabilizing. They create a foundation that doesn't collapse when external support disappears. Over time, you notice a shift in how you carry yourself. You speak with clarity instead of defensiveness. You listen without needing to dominate. You move without needing permission. Your confidence becomes rooted in who you are, not how you're perceived. That confidence attracts respect naturally, without chasing it. When rebuilding is driven by self-respect, your life becomes quieter but stronger. Less noise, more meaning. Less proving, more progress. You stop asking the world to validate your worth and start living in a way that proves it to yourself. You have survived what was meant to stop you, faced the truth about yourself, taken responsibility for your choices, and learned to rely on discipline instead of feelings. You've seen that real change is built through small, consistent actions, that growth requires releasing what no longer serves you, protecting your energy, and moving with focus and intention. This rebuild is not about becoming someone else, but about becoming more of who you were always capable of being. The past shaped you, but it no longer controls you. The work ahead will demand patience, courage, and commitment, but you are no longer guessing who you are or what you stand for. You are rebuilding on truth, self-respect, and purpose, and that foundation is strong enough to carry you forward into whatever comes next, because the strongest version of you is not the one that seeks approval, but the one that shows up every day and refuses to quit.